Hello, dearest viewers, and welcome back. You are watching the Zenith Glow Astrology YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Christina, and I am an astrologer. Today, we are going to be discussing the new moon in Libra coming up on October 21st. Before we get into that, I would kindly ask you all for your support. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel and please like this video. It helps me out a lot. All right, new moon in Libra. We've had a lot of stuff going on lately, haven't we? I mean, par for the course, I guess. But there are some extra special alignments happening with this new moon. I talked a little bit about it in my 3-eye atlas video. I'll go ahead and link to that at the end of this video if you want to check that out. Before I get into everything, though, there is something that I want to correct that I said in that 3-eye atlas video. This is just one of those things that happens when I'm recording. I mix up dates or I mix up ideas that correspond to dates, so you'll have to forgive me. I am absolutely not perfect, but let me go ahead and fix what I mistook from that video. So in the 3-eye atlas video, I was talking about the significance of this new moon in Libra, which we are about to discuss. And I talked about how 3-eye atlas was going to be at its perihelion during the new moon in Libra. That was incorrect. And that's something I was confusing because 3-eye atlas will actually reach its perihelion on October 30th, which is also significant because October 30th is right before All Hallows Eve and Samhain, and that in and of itself, along with All Saints Day, Day of the Dead, all that stuff, it is a significant portal in and of itself. It is a time when the veil is thin. And this is true every year. So having 3-eye atlas reach its perihelion during that time, during that window, is extra significant, especially because the perihelion is when it will come closest to the sun. And the sun is consciousness, and so we will be receiving a lot during that time, especially because the veil will be thin. So we will already be a little bit more susceptible to that. So that is significant. Now, there was something happening on the 21st in coordination with the new moon, and this is what it is. And this is why I got those two things confused. So on October 21st, what's happening with 3-eye atlas is it will be in its solar conjunction. Okay, and this is something we refer to in astronomy and astrology. So solar conjunction is told from the perspective of the Earth. So from our vantage point where we are looking, 3-eye atlas will appear to be conjunct with the sun. It's going to be on the other side of the sun because it is closer to the sun than it is to Earth. So that is the significance. Now, it is significant because we often discuss solar conjunctions when we are talking about retrogrades, planetary retrogrades. The solar conjunction, I've talked about this in other videos. I think I did one last spring, and it was about the climax of Venus and Mercury retrograde, which is exactly what that is. When we have planets that come into their solar conjunction, during their retrograde phase, it represents a culmination, a climax, a time of epiphany during that retrograde phase. Okay. Now, of course, 3-eye atlas is not retrograde. I'm just referring to, when we often discuss solar conjunctions and what their significance is. Because when you have a planet that is in alignment with the sun, so it is layered upon the sun from our perspective on Earth, it signifies a time when we can receive things consciously, right? Or when we receive things that shift our consciousness. There is a kind of spiritual illumination that comes through that energy. Now, this would be true whether that is something that is retrograde or not. So with 3-eye atlas, whatever we are receiving from it it is happening at the same time that we are having this new moon in Libra. That is significant. New moons, in and of themselves, represent the moon and the sun being conjunct each other. So we could say that 3i Atlas, the sun, and the moon are all conjunct each other at the time of the new moon in Libra. That is highly significant. So we'll talk about this more, but I just wanted to make that correction. And hopefully everything that I've said so far makes sense. So, new moon in Libra, it's going to be October 21st. It will be happening at 28 degrees 21 minutes of Libra, and it will become exact at 8:24 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And convert that to your time zone as needed. So, another thing that happened recently that is also impacting this new moon, and we're going to look at all the alignments here in a second, is that Pluto recently left its retrograde period and stationed direct. And it's currently stationed right now. When a planet is stationed, it appears to be stopped from our perspective. It's kind of hovering at the same degree of whatever sign it's transiting through. And it is a time of extra intensity because that planet is shifting direction. And so we feel the inertia of that event as the planet moves direction. It's going from, being under the surface and working subconsciously, which Pluto works very subconsciously on us anyway, to suddenly moving forward again back to its normal trajectory. This signifies a time, particularly with Pluto, when our shadows start to emerge into the light, when we start to pull things up. Whatever we've been working on, I believe Pluto went retrograde at the very end of April, the very early first week of May. It was shortly after it had its opposition with Mars, its final opposition with Mars last spring. So that energy went into Pluto's retrograde period. Again, something significant to think about. So whatever energy it carried forward from that opposition with Mars, it brought with it into the little retrograde underworld, and its themes and lessons and shadows and challenges that we've been working with. These things have been simmering below the surface, likely below our conscious awareness. Again, Pluto. Pluto deals with themes of power. So, and it often does that by showing us where we are disempowered, where we lack power, or where our power is challenged by external forces, whether that's people or events or choices that we've made. If we get stuck in our comfort zone or, whatever the circumstances of our lives, either way, we are being challenged in our power. And when Pluto goes direct, it begins to show us these things on a more conscious level. It often does this through emotion, because we will experience frustration, we'll experience melancholy, we might feel even a sense of existentialism, nihilism. We might feel frustrated, and lots of those heavy emotions begin to bubble to the surface. It's a difficult thing to go through, but it's a positive experience in the end because it allows us to integrate, to transcend, to transmute, to alchemize. So whatever Pluto's been bringing up for you at this time, it's likely that those things were more impactful, more acute when Pluto went direct, which was very recently. But at the time of this new moon, Pluto will have just started to move forward again, and it will move off of that stationary degree. So this energy, and because, any kind of lunar event, we're looking at least a 3-day window. And if you're sensitive, you might feel that farther ahead of time, and you might feel it lasting longer after the actual event. So you might be starting to feel these energies right now. So again, I guess I'm pointing this out because these things are not mutually exclusive. It's not like Pluto went direct and now it's done, and now we have the new moon and then that's done, and then we have the Halloween window and Samhain and 3i Atlas and its perihelion. These things are not distinct from each other. They are all fluidly flowing together, okay, in succession, right? They're bleeding over into each other. So this is a very potent time, and it's a beautiful time for spiritual growth. It's a beautiful time for transmutation and to shift your reality. But also know that as we go through that shifting process, we have to deal with all of the little root rot areas within ourselves, right? The areas that have not been tended to, that we've ignored, or we haven't been able to see clearly until now. Maybe we weren't ready to see those things yet. Well, the time is now. So just know there can be a little bit of emotional turbulence during this time. But when you step up and you face that, you're willing to feel the pain, you're willing to move through the emotions, it actually goes faster and smoother. And you can alchemize and you can shift into a state of empowerment a lot faster. All right, let's look at some charts. So, the first thing that we're going to look at with this new moon in Libra, what kind of aspect pattern do you think I'm going to talk about? Have you been watching my videos? Do you know? Do you know what the theme of 2025 is when it comes to aspect patterns? Let's look. We have a yod. Of course we have a yod. So there's a lot going on with this new moon. A lot. Not just 3i Atlas, not just Pluto recently direct. We actually have all of the goddess asteroids involved in this event. And mind you, as well, Libra is ruled by Venus. So Venus is ruling this new moon. So we have a lot of feminine energy flooding in at this time, and that is very significant. Before I get into that, though, I want to talk about this yod. Let's just get it out of the way. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to do it. I had to do it. Okay, so with this particular yod, which I have highlighted in green here, we have the new moon, which is the sun and the moon conjunct in the last couple of degrees of Libra. We have Uranus at 0 degrees of Gemini, and we have Saturn and Neptune. And mind you, at this point in time, Saturn and Neptune are kind of like a pair that come together with just about everything that they're doing. So Saturn and Neptune, each at their respective degrees. Saturn's at 26 degrees of Pisces, Neptune's at 0 degrees of Aries. Each of those configurations are sextile each other, and they are both in conjunct with the Sun-Moon conjunction in Libra. Okay, so this forms our finger of God, poking us once again into divine realignment. This is a potent, powerful aspect. It is, again, it's this same theme. I feel like a broken record, but this is just what keeps happening because of the way that the outer planets are aligned. And again, the outer planets will act on the inner planets to get them to transform. Also, keep in mind that with the sun and moon conjunct each other, we also have 3i Atlas at its solar conjunction. So somewhere out there in space, 3i Atlas is also feeding into that sun-moon energy. New moons are new beginnings. They are times to sow seeds. They are times to make wishes. They are times to set intentions, conduct rituals, and make plans for your future, right? That's all still true. And you're getting an extra dose of divine influence as you do that work. And part of that is coming through this yod configuration. So we have Uranus deconditioning our perception and communication in Gemini. We have Saturn and Neptune bridging together the energies of Pisces and Aries. All of these planets are retrograde. They are functioning largely unconsciously. They are working through the shadows and the underworld. So this energy, while it is potent and while it can create frustration and disruption, it is likely to be more subtle. And it is likely that once these outer planets turn direct again, the themes that they are introducing now will become more apparent to us in our consciousness. But there is something being birthed at this time. There is something brand new happening. And once again, a new moon. We get that vibe from a new moon anyway, but this is particularly true with 3i Atlas in the mix and with this divine, potent configuration going on. All right. I also want to point out that we have Chiron, our wounded healer in Aries, and he is opposite of this new moon conjunction. Okay. Chiron is also trine with asteroid Mary Magdalena in Leo. Okay, so we have some fire energy coming through here. We are likely to feel some tension coming through, and it could be happening within our relationships. Here's that theme again. But of course, relationships are some of our best mirrors, right? And they love to show us our shadows. Thank you, relationships. But once again, through the opposition aspect and through the fact that we are talking about Libra energy, which does relate to relationships, this is a theme that is arising at this time. So we might find some woundedness around identity and personal destiny and our individual path being reflected through relationships, and we must reconcile this in some way. Fortunately, we are getting support through divine feminine energy, and the first glimpse of that is here through Mary Magdalena, who is forming a trine to Chiron. So there's a lot of healing on the table for us at this time. So let's go ahead and let's look at some of this feminine energy that we've got happening. All right. So, as I said, Venus rules this new moon, okay? Venusian energy is highly feminine, and we happen to have a harmonious aspect pattern here, a cradle happening. Cradle, interesting, because something is being birthed at this time. So we have Venus in Libra at 9 degrees. She is sextile with Juno in Sagittarius. Also, did I say 6 degrees? Venus at 9 degrees, Juno at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. Juno is sextile with Pallas Athena in Aquarius at 7 degrees. Pallas Athena is sextile with goddess asteroid Ceres in Aries at 5 degrees. And then Ceres is opposite of Venus. This forms a cradle aspect pattern. So the opposition provides a little bit of tension. There's that Aries Libra paradigm once again, self versus other, coming forward. But again, this is feminine energy, and this is largely harmonious because of those sextiles. It's not necessarily chill energy because sextiles are very excitable, but it is sparking inspiration. So, what we have coming through the divine feminine at this time is a really beautiful thing, coupled with Mary Magdalena and Chiron's influence, as well as Chariklo and Vesta, which I will show you in the next diagram that I've drawn on for y'all. We have this healing energy coming through, but it's very soft, it's very feminine. We are being called to step into feminine energy during this new moon. I also want to add, this is further supported not only by 3i Atlas, which I talked about being feminine energy as well, but we have 17 comets moving through our solar system right now, which I believe is anomalous. Comets in general are not necessarily a rare phenomenon, but having so many simultaneous to this interstellar object and all these other alignments going on, this is a very potent time. This is an intense time. But, and I've talked about this before, comets actually hold feminine energy. And we can get into that another time if you want to know more about that. But just know that they are bringing in this kind of feminine energy, this sort of yin type of energy. So what does that mean? What is this unfolding for us, right? Well, Venus is attraction and reception, right? And feminine energy in general is receptivity. So we are receiving enlightenment and healing energy through the feminine principle at the time of this new moon. This is very soft, beautiful, unconditionally loving energy. This is mother archetype energy coming through at this time. Now, if you are following mainstream media or you're looking at what some other people are talking about with 3i Atlas and the comets and all of that, and of course, use your own discernment. And by the way, that is part of this feminine energy. Tapping into your heart and listening to its wisdom and seeing what resonates. And that is very crucial. It is very crucial in general during the times that we are in, but especially right now. There's a lot of narrative, there's a lot of clashing narratives about what's happening, but I'm seeing a lot of, it's actually really masculine energy. And there's nothing wrong with masculine energy. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is what's being described out there in the cosmos, what's happening, is like this aggressive, invasive, penetrating, violent, disruptive kind of perspective on things. Okay? It's fear-based. It's talking about, being invaded by outside sources. And what does that mean? And, to me, and again, you all have to go inward and see what resonates with you. I'm just sharing with you what I feel, with what I have intuited, and with what I know through my astrological knowledge and what I am seeing happening. But this energy, to me, is all feminine energy. And I think that's supported by what we see here cosmically with these alignments, with these goddess asteroids, with Venus herself, with the new moon itself. Again, 3i Atlas started glowing green. There is this heart chakra activation happening at this time. We are being called to go inward into the heart because that's where the inner child is. And it's through that purity that we can perceive truth more accurately. This is part of the function of Uranus forming that Yod configuration with the new moon. It's a new beginning. It's a time to re-envision what we want to see and what we are seeing. Do we need to decondition our perception? Have we been stuck in this polarized, combative state of being and perceiving? And I can't answer that for you. I'm just posing the questions that seem to be arising at this time and that I've certainly been questioning and considering for myself. But I do think that our reality is highly polarized. I think that that doesn't serve our highest good per se. And I'm not saying we do away with polarity altogether. We need it to learn, but we can also be entrapped by it. And Uranus is all about freedom and authenticity. And anything that restricts our growth, Uranus wants to break down and build anew in something that is more liberated. So again, we have a new beginning that is offering us the ability to shift our perception and the way that we look at things. How are we structuring our world, Saturn? Is it in alignment with our spiritual values, Neptune? And are we cultivating a reality? Are we recognizing that we have the ability to cultivate reality? Many of us know that from a logical level or from a learned perspective within the spiritual community. We've all learned that our thoughts create reality, that we have the ability to manifest, that, what we desire, we can influence reality, right? But how many of us fall into the trap of the subconscious mind and of the old programs and of the hijacks and what's going on out there that we get ensnared by? I mean, I said this in my Uranus and Gemini video or my podcast, the very first one that I did all those months ago. Folks, we are almost at the end of 2025. That is exciting. But consciousness is a precious commodity, is it not? If your consciousness can restructure timelines and shift reality and shape what you experience. And if you can harness group consciousness to funnel that energy in a collective way, would that not be a very valuable commodity? So, are there people or whatever that stand to gain from capturing consciousness? Okay, so these types of themes are still on the table for us. And what's happening with this new moon is we are receiving a lot of divine feminine support, because when we are overly masculinized, is that the right way to put that? If we are too much in our masculine energy, it puts us into this state of combativeness, of defensiveness, of always needing to take action. We're always moving forward, but never taking time to pause and consider our dreams and consider what we want to create. And we're also get stuck in this idea that what we want to create is something we have to earn, something we have to actively cultivate, something that we have to go after. And the feminine principle here with this new moon and in general is reminding us gently, lovingly, that you are already worthy, that you don't have to do anything to receive. All you have to do is shift your inner reality. Again, we have that yin energy. Your inner reality is what dictates your outer reality. And so often we forget this. We try to work it backwards, right? And it's a reciprocal energy, and to a degree we can do that. But if you are operating on the external as your primary focus and you are ignoring the internal, you're not going to shift your reality in a way that is aligned for you. You're not going to be able to make the changes that you really want to make, because it always starts inside first. You have to work inside out. So we are being reminded through divine feminine energy at this time, we are unconditionally loved. That mother archetype. You don't have to earn anything. It doesn't matter what you've done or not done. You already deserve to receive. You already are worthy. You already are loved. You already are the things that you are seeking to create. You are already those things. And when we can shift our perception and accept this truth as truth, that is when we can change our consciousness. And that is when we start to restructure the fabric of our reality. And then we can have that mirrored, Libra, back to us through our lived experience. I hope this all makes sense. So, I don't even know if I really need to show this to you, but again, we have Vesta and Chariklo that are sextile with each other. Now, Vesta is actually squaring the nodal axis. Vesta is the inner light. She holds a very kind of Virgo energy. She is the sacred flame within each of us. It is the burning light within that drives us forward on our path. Very appropriate that she is making an aspect to the nodal axis during this new moon. And she's squaring the nodes. Again, though, feminine energy is a lot more subtle. And so this isn't necessarily something that's going to be like in your face. It's going to be something bubbling beneath the surface. But are you following your inner light? Are you allowing yourself to heal the parts of you that have blocked that light? If you are being offered sweet, healing nectar, are you going to open your mouth and receive it? If you are being offered the opportunity to take what is poisonous and turn it into a healing elixir, are you going to be receptive to that wisdom? These are questions that are arising at this time, and it is all energy that is on par for this event. And it's a beautiful opportunity to shift into higher consciousness and to raise our vibration in the most beautiful, soft, loving way. Because so often when we heal and when we change our consciousness, it's kind of traumatizing in and of itself, or it's intense, or it's grueling, it's exhausting. And this is very, very loving, nurturing energy. So I invite you all to tap into this and to see what you experience and how do you feel. Very last, we have with some of our major players now, because that was all, goddess, asteroid, divine feminine stuff. We have a grand water trine. So again, and even though these are masculine planets I'm about to discuss, grand water trine. So trines in and of themselves signify harmonious energy, energy that is fluid, energy that flows easily, unimpeded, particularly with a grand trine. So this is fluid, this is easy energy. These planets communicate with each other with absolute ease. There's no disharmony, there's no miscommunication happening between them. Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, and then we have a triple conjunction between Mars, Mercury, and Black Moon Lilith. Here we have divine feminine again, all in Scorpio, that are all involved in this grand water trine. Okay. So, and by the way, yes, Saturn and Jupiter are masculine planets, but they are in feminine signs. We have Cancer, the mother archetype, our nurturer, our safety, what is ruled by the moon. We have Pisces, ruled by Neptune, but this energy is also unconditionally loving and tapped into spirit, receptive. So again, we have this soft, fluid energy. Scorpio is an intense sign, and there is this element of transformation happening, but again, it's happening through a grand water trine, and water, of course, flowing, easy, smooth. It's going to be emotional, and you might feel emotions arise at this time, but I wouldn't make the assumption that what you feel is going to be negative emotion. It could be. It could be. And if that happens, again, I talked about Pluto having recently turned direct. If that happens, allow it to flow through you like water, and you'll find that you'll be cleansed when you do that, when you don't resist it. But you might also be experiencing emotion that is quote unquote positive emotion. You might find yourself feeling joy. You might find yourself feeling inspired and sparked by imagination. Once again, Vesta, squaring the nodal axis. That is that inner spark, that inner light, that illumination that gives us creative energy. And this is very creative energy anyway, because it's all feminine, right? This is the womb. This is, and literally, like it's water, like a water trine, like that is the womb. This is a time of rebirth. Scorpio energy transforms, it transmutes, and then it dies and is reborn. Okay? Black Moon Lilith is a darker energy, but she's not a negative energy. She's yin in that sense. She's negative, like negative, positive, like polarity wise. But again, she's inviting us to go inward. I will post a link. I wrote an article about Black Moon Lilith last year, I believe, where I go in depth into her meaning and how she operates within us. If you want to explore that, I'll post a link to it. But just know that Black Moon Lilith is, a theoretical point which exists between the earth and the sun. And she represents a point which our moon orbits around, because our moon has an elliptical orbit, meaning it's not circular, it's elongated. And she represents this gravitational point that helps balance the moon's orbit. And she's closer to the sun than we are. So she's sort of like the dark void that we pass through, the womb, before we emerge into the light. And sometimes that involves shadow work, but she also represents a portal into empowerment for each of us. And with her being conjunct with Mercury and Mars and Mercury are exactly conjunct, folks, at 20 degrees of Scorpio, we are being called to transform. Once again, this is that same theme I'm talking about here. Our thoughts, our perceptions, the way we communicate, what we speak into reality. And then again, Mars, our active masculine principle, how we take action, right? I just said this a moment ago. We have this notion that to create and to manifest, it's all work, it's all effort, it's all rebellion against what is pre-existing that we don't like and that we want to create something different from. There's this active, aggressive energy that goes into that. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. And again, we need that Martian energy. We need the masculine. But we need to bring the masculine and the feminine into balance to have this harmony, Libra, right? So, and it seems that there is an imbalance in the masculine energy. And that's why all of this feminine energy is coming up at this time. That's why we are experiencing a new beginning, an opportunity to shift our energy and our consciousness to incorporate more of the feminine. And so many of us, without even realizing it, are not allowing ourselves to be in our feminine. And part of being in your feminine is knowing your worth and allowing yourself to receive. You have to allow yourself to receive. You can't always be giving, which is that Martian masculine principle, right? So again, the way that we think and the way that we take action, Mars and Mercury are both being initiated into a different kind of consciousness, something that is softer and more receptive and more harmonious with this feminine energy. Because again, it's not about leaving the masculine behind, not at all. We need both. It's about balancing the polarity. Because when you balance the polarity, that is when you move into 0 point energy. That is when you are able to be in the present. And through that present 0 point, that is when the magic happens. That is when you can manifest. That is when you can shift your reality and create anything you want to. And I truly mean anything that you want to. And again, that is another theme. Let's go ahead and I'm getting all excited. That's another theme of this new moon. What can you imagine for your life as possible? What do you want to create? What does that inner spark within tell you? Where are you feeling pulled toward, right? Feminine energy is magnetic, okay? So on the one hand, you are going to attract rather than chase in order to manifest. But on the other hand, you are being pulled towards something as well. And that thing that you're being pulled toward is the calling of your soul. It is your sacred flame. It is the thing that drives you forward in this life, your passion, your purpose. So where are you being called toward? Sorry if you heard a bark. My dogs are getting all excited. Where are you being called toward? So again, and also, and this is part of the shadow that comes up at this time, but again, the shadow, it's softer. It's something that just emerges and that we can look at with grace, with love. And that's when we can integrate our shadow, right? It doesn't all have to be brutal and difficult. It can also just be accepting and loving. But part of the shadow, and I do greatly think that Jupiter in Cancer is highlighting a lot of this for us because, again, it's highlighting themes of our emotional conditioning that go all the way back to childhood, to family, to how we were raised and nurtured. And then it can even extend back to past lives. And again, that's part of that grand water trine between Pisces and Cancer and Scorpio. But these things need to be shifted and transmuted because there are likely thought patterns, beliefs, belief systems, things that we've inherited, Cancer, from ancestors or from society, things that largely operate unconsciously within us, right? Water, it's the unconscious. But this is a time when we can receive, when we can have these things come into illumination for us, right? 3i Atlas, this loving, heart-based feminine energy, is at its solar conjunction. So we are primed to receive higher information coming through feminine wisdom. In what ways have we been blocked because we are limited in what we can perceive as possible to create? We are powerful creator beings. We are able to create anything that we want to, truly. We are limited only by our imagination. And again, sometimes, and I'm not going to make this about that, but I'm just throwing it out there, sometimes certain groups will benefit from limiting other people's consciousness. And it can be a very subtle yet powerful manipulation that is thrust upon us and that we adopt into our belief system without even realizing it. I talked about Uranus and Gemini, going back to basics, ABC 1, 2, 3. What did we learn in our most formative years that we have come to just accept? We labeled it, we filed it away, we accepted it, and we've been operating with that as our foundation without ever questioning, is that really truth? Is that really reality? Or is there something more expansive available to us? All of this is being funneled into this new moon event. So, to conclude, thank you so much for watching this far, by the way, folks. To conclude, this is still a new moon. You can still manifest. You can still do all the new moon things that we all love to do. But just be aware that you can harness this energy and make the most of it by getting out of your masculine a little bit, just a little bit, and allowing yourself to just receive, to just be, to just feel worthy of receiving. Allow yourself to attract rather than chase. Allow yourself to feel love, to tap into that infinite well of love that exists within and for each of us. This energy will prime you to start a new chapter in your life where you can begin to manifest from much more expansive imaginary realms, where you can create in your life in much more dynamic ways, in much more beautiful ways, and where you can really start to shift your reality and start to rewrite the playbook for yourself, the way that it aligns with your sacred flame, with your inner truth, with what you want to see created. It is available to each of us. This is a new beginning. Take advantage of it. You deserve it. We all deserve it. And it is being offered to us with the most beautiful, unconditional love at this time. It is a sacred gift. Accept the gift and appreciate it for what it is. All right, folks. Thank you so much once again. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Please like this video if you would. Hit the notification bell and it will let you know whenever I post a new video. Otherwise, I want to say thank you so much for being here. I wish you all a blessed and happy new moon in Libra, and I will catch you all in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.